Okay, imagine something called both Himalayan Viagra and get this Himalayan gold. It's this natural treasure that sort of blurs the lines of biology.
It really does.
Today, we're diving deep into the world of Yarsagumba. It's truly remarkable.
Absolutely. And we've got this great source, a detailed PDF packed with info on it. It's our guide for this deep dive.
Perfect.
Our mission really is to pull out the most interesting, the most important facts for you. We're talking biology, traditional uses, what science says, the money side, and what it means culturally up there in the Himalayas.
All right, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
What is Yarsagumba, fundamentally? I know the scientific name is Ophiocordyceps sinensis. Bit of a mouthful.
It is Ophiocordyceps sinensis. Used to be Cordyceps sinensis. They reclassified it. But the local name, the Nepali name, Yarsagumba, that tells you a lot.
Yeah. How so?
Yarsa means summer grass, and Gumba is winter worm. So summer grass, winter worm.
Summer grass, winter worm. Okay, that sounds kind of poetic, almost contradictory, like a riddle.
It does paint a picture, doesn't it? And it hints at this really unique life cycle. But scientifically, the key thing to grasp is that it's a parasitic fungus.
Right, not some mythical half-plant, half-animal thing.
Exactly. It's a fungus invading an insect. A very specific, fascinating interaction.
Okay, a fungal invasion. You have to tell us more about this caterpillar connection. How does this summer grass winter worm actually happen?
Okay, so it all starts underground, high up in the Himalayan meadows. We're talking above 3,000 meters.
Oh, okay.
There's this specific insect, the larva of the ghost moth genus that erodes. It lives underground.
A ghost moth larva. Got it.
Then, usually in the summer or fall, spores from the Ophiocordyceps fungus are floating around. If they land on one of these caterpillars, yeah, they infect it. The fungus starts growing inside the caterpillar. It feeds on its organs, basically mummifying it from the inside out.
Whoa. Well, it's still alive initially.
Yes, initially. Eventually, the fungus kills the caterpillar, usually positioning it vertically, head up, just below the soil surface.
Creepy. And
Then when spring comes, and the conditions are right, this stalk-like mushroom, the fruiting body, erupts from the dead caterpillar's head and pushes up through the soil.
So that's the summer grass part people see, the stalk.
Precisely. And the winter worm is the mummified caterpillar body underneath. It's this complete unit that gets harvested.
That is wild. It really does look like something out of folklore. And when do people actually go looking for this? When's the harvest?
The main time in Nepal is usually April to June. Sometimes it can stretch into July, depending on the altitude and the snow melt that year.
Okay, April to June.
Mm-hmm.
And where exactly are we talking about in Nepal? It's a big place.
It is. Our source mentions specific districts known for it. Dalpa, Rukum, Jumla, Darchula, Bashang, Manang, Mustang. Basically the high altitude regions.
Right, you said 3,000 meters plus.
Yeah, typically between 3,000 and 5,000 meters. It's a very specific, harsh environment where this whole drama unfolds.
Okay, so it's been used for ages in traditional medicine, right? Traditional Chinese medicine, Tibetan medicine.
Oh, for centuries. It has a really long history of use.
So what's the modern science take? Are those traditional uses holding up to scrutiny?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting and also a bit complex. Science is looking into it, absolutely, but, and this is an important but, a lot of the research so far is on animals or in vitro.
In vitro?
Oh,
meaning in test tubes or petri dishes?
Exactly. Lab studies. Human clinical trials, the gold standard, are still pretty limited, especially when it comes to figuring out, effective and safe dosages for specific conditions.
Okay, caveat noted. But there is some promising stuff emerging, according to the source, like energy and stamina.
Yes, that's a big traditional use, fighting fatigue, boosting energy. And there is some research backing that idea up, potentially.
Oh.
Some studies suggest it might increase the body's production of ATP.
ATP, the energy molecule in our cells.
That's the one. And it might also help the body use oxygen more efficiently. So you can see how that might translate to feeling more energetic or having better stamina. There was a study back in 2010, Chen et al., that pointed towards this.
Interesting. And then there's that nickname, Himalayan Viagra. Where does that come from? Is there any science there?
Yes, the nickname. It's certainly memorable. Well, traditional use definitely includes enhancing libido and sexual function.
Okay.
And some animal studies have shown that extracts can boost testosterone levels, for instance. It's been traditionally used for things like male infertility or erectile dysfunction.
But the human evidence.
Again, that's where we need more work. Promising leads in traditional use and animal models, but robust human trials confirming these effects and establishing safe dosages. Still largely missing.
Right, got it. What about the immune system? The source mentions that too.
Yeah, that's another key area. Yarsagumba contains compounds called beta-glucans.
Beta-glucans, I've heard of those. They're in oats and mushrooms, right?
Exactly. They're known to interact with the immune system. Some research suggests Yarsagumba might help modulate immunity, maybe boost the activity of certain immune cells, like natural killer cells or NK cells.
And what do NK cells do?
They're part of our innate immune response. They're really important for targeting infected cells or even cancer cells. So, boosting them could theoretically be beneficial.
Speaking of cancer, the source mentions anti-cancer potential and also anti-aging.
Yes, both are areas of interest. For anti-aging, it links back to antioxidants. Yarsagumba contains a compound called cordycepin, among others.
Cordycepin.
Cordycepin has shown antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties in lab studies. Antioxidants fight oxidative stress, which is implicated in aging and many chronic diseases.
So less cell damage, potentially slower aging.
That's the hypothesis, yeah.
Yeah.
And this cordycepin, it's also what's being studied for anti-cancer effects.
How so?
Lab studies, again in vitro, have shown that cordycepin can slow the growth of certain cancer cells. Lung, breast, leukemia have been looked at. It might interfere with their growth and replication processes.
And I'm sensing a pattern here, it's still experimental.
Very much so. Extremely important to stress that. It's exciting research, a potential source for new drugs maybe, but absolutely not a proven cancer treatment for humans at this point. Early days.
Understood. Okay, what else? The source mentioned diabetes and maybe kidney or liver health.
Right. On the diabetes front, some animal studies suggest it might help lower blood sugar levels and improve insulin sensitivity, how the body responds to insulin.
Which could be helpful for managing blood sugar.
Potentially, yes. And for liver and kidney health, again, we see links to traditional medicine where it was used for things like hepatitis or kidney disease. Some modern research, mostly preclinical, suggests it might offer some protective effects, particularly for the kidneys.
So a lot of potential avenues, but more human research needed across the board.
That's the takeaway, definitely.
Okay, so if people do use it, how is it typically consumed? Is it like a pill or?
It can be consumed in several ways. The most traditional and also the most expensive form is the whole thing, the dried caterpillar with the fungus stalk.
Just eat it.
Well, often it's stewed, maybe in soups or teas, gives it time to infuse. But yeah, sometimes raw or just lightly processed. It's also available powdered, which can be put into capsules, making it more like a typical supplement.
So whole, powdered, capsules, or brewed. Got it. Now, let's zoom out a bit. You mentioned expensive. Just how expensive are we talking? This thing has a massive economic impact, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely massive. It's one of the most valuable natural resources on the planet by weight.
Really? More than gold?
The price fluctuates, but yeah, it can fetch prices like, well, the source mentions around USD 20,000 per kilogram, sometimes even higher depending on quality and market demand. It truly is Himalayan gold in that sense.
$20,000 a kilo. For a fungus caterpillar, that's staggering.
It is, and that huge value makes it incredibly important for the economies of these remote Himalayan communities. For many families, it's their primary source of cash income for the entire year.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
It must transform livelihoods.
It certainly can, but it also brings challenges like potential conflicts over harvesting areas and the environmental impact.
Right. With that kind of money involved, I assume over-harvesting is a huge problem.
It's a major concern, yes. The demand is intense, and it has led to documented declines in Yarsagumba populations in some areas. People are collecting it faster than it can naturally replenish.
And that must damage the ecosystem too, right? People digging around up there.
Exactly. Trampling vegetation, disturbing the soil. These are fragile, high-altitude environments. Over-harvesting impacts not just the Yarsagumba itself, but the whole ecosystem it's part of.
Is anything being done? Our source mentioned Nepal government regulations.
Yes, the government in Nepal does try to manage it. They've set specific harvesting seasons, you need permits to collect it, things like that.
Does it work?
Well, enforcement is really difficult in those remote, rugged mountain areas. So while the regulations exist, their effectiveness on the ground can be limited. It's an ongoing challenge to find that balance between economic benefit and ecological sustainability.
A familiar story for valuable natural resources, unfortunately. Beyond the money and the environment, what about the cultural side in Nepal?
It's deeply woven into the cultural fabric in many of these Himalayan communities.
How so?
Well, the harvest itself is often a communal affair. Whole families might move to temporary camps high in the mountains during the season. It's a major event in the year.
A collective effort.
Yes. And it's a major export product for the country, though, as we touched on, there's also issues with illegal trafficking across borders. Culturally, it's often viewed with reverence.
Reverence.
Yeah, sometimes considered a gift of the gods, perhaps because of its perceived potency and mysterious origins. In some communities, it might even be used in specific ceremonies or rituals. It's more than just medicine or money.
Wow. Okay, so let's try to recap the key things we've pulled out.
Yeah.
We've got this absolutely bizarre, fascinating life cycle fungus meets caterpillar.
Parasitic relationship, yeah.
Then there's the blend of centuries of traditional use now meeting modern science, which shows some promising, if preliminary, findings for things like energy, maybe immunity, antioxidants.
But with the big caveat about needing more human trials.
Right, always that caveat. Then the economics, just staggering value, crucial income for remote areas, but driving serious environmental concerns about overharvesting.
A classic conservation dilemma.
And finally, its deep cultural significance in Nepal. A communal activity, a revered substance, almost mythical in some ways.
It really covers a lot of ground, doesn't it? Biology, medicine, economics, culture, environment, all wrapped up in this one strange organism.
It's definitely way more than just some weird fungus.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been, well, pretty eye-opening. Who knew a fungus and a caterpillar could be at the center of such a complex web?
It's a prime example of how interconnected things are, especially in unique environments like the Himalayas.
So here's something for you listening to think about. We've talked a lot about the clash, or maybe the tension, between the huge economic draw of Yarsagumba and the critical need to protect the Himalayan ecosystem. Where does traditional knowledge fit in here?
That's a great question.
Yeah, think about the knowledge these communities have built up over generations living alongside Yarsagumba. What role could that deep local understanding play in trying to find a sustainable path forward? How might it help balance the need for income with the need to preserve this Himalayan gold for the future? Definitely something worth pondering. Okay, imagine something called both Himalayan Viagra and get this Himalayan gold. It's this natural treasure that sort of blurs the lines of biology.
It really does.
Today, we're diving deep into the world of Yarsagumba. It's truly remarkable.
Absolutely. And we've got this great source, a detailed PDF packed with info on it. It's our guide for this deep dive.
Perfect.
Our mission really is to pull out the most interesting, the most important facts for you. We're talking biology, traditional uses, what science says, the money side, and what it means culturally up there in the Himalayas.
All right, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
What is Yarsagumba, fundamentally? I know the scientific name is Ophiocordyceps sinensis. Bit of a mouthful.
It is Ophiocordyceps sinensis. Used to be Cordyceps sinensis. They reclassified it. But the local name, the Nepali name, Yarsagumba, that tells you a lot.
Yeah. How so?
Yarsa means summer grass, and Gumba is winter worm. So summer grass, winter worm.
Summer grass, winter worm. Okay, that sounds kind of poetic, almost contradictory, like a riddle.
It does paint a picture, doesn't it? And it hints at this really unique life cycle. But scientifically, the key thing to grasp is that it's a parasitic fungus.
Right, not some mythical half-plant, half-animal thing.
Exactly. It's a fungus invading an insect. A very specific, fascinating interaction.
Okay, a fungal invasion. You have to tell us more about this caterpillar connection. How does this summer grass winter worm actually happen?
Okay, so it all starts underground, high up in the Himalayan meadows. We're talking above 3,000 meters.
Oh, okay.
There's this specific insect, the larva of the ghost moth genus that erodes. It lives underground.
A ghost moth larva. Got it.
Then, usually in the summer or fall, spores from the Ophiocordyceps fungus are floating around. If they land on one of these caterpillars, they infect it. The fungus starts growing inside the caterpillar. It feeds on its organs, basically mummifying it from the inside out.
Whoa. Well, it's still alive initially.
Yes, initially. Eventually, the fungus kills the caterpillar, usually positioning it vertically, head up, just below the soil surface.
Creepy.